We'll go ahead and let you talk first.
Okay. Hello everyone. Super excited that the world is coming to Iowa City, Coralville. What a special event we have this weekend with the World Cup being in our backyard of the University of Iowa. And more importantly, that Felicity Taylor gets to compete and put on a performance on the world stage. Yeah, super excited.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open for questions. Please raise your hand in the participant window. Everyone's always afraid to go first.
No question's good.
She's tough. Cody, you can go ahead.
Hey coach, I was just kind of curious what your thoughts were on having the Women's World Cup and the Men's World Cup running alongside each other at the same time. This seems like a really cool opportunity for wrestling as a whole, but especially for the women. What do you think about the setup this year?
I love it. I love it. I know they said that it's never happened before. It's never happened where men and women's freestyle were side by side. I will say I was on the very first Women's World Cup team, maybe coach. I'm so used to Coach Gary Mayab. Sorry, Gary Abbott might know that in 2001, the first Women's World Cup was in Levelos, France. Maybe I said that town wrong. But we were alongside men's Greco, and that was awesome because, we sent Team USA had both men and women, and you could cheer each other on. And that's what's so fun about it. It's a world event. Anytime we can bring all styles together is always an exciting time because wrestling is wrestling and we love wrestling, whether it's male, female, Greco, or whatnot. So really excited to have the men and women competing alongside each other because there was a time, it hasn't happened in 21 years. So.
And I know girls women's wrestling at all levels has skyrocketed in recent years, and we've seen it at every level, and especially here at Iowa. The opportunity to bring the World Cup, the Women's World Cup specifically, to the U.S. and to an area that really loves wrestling. What can that do for women's wrestling and girls wrestling and just the movement as a whole? Like, what do you think the after effects of this weekend could be for that movement?
Oh man, it's the visibility, right? It's young girls seeing like senior athletes on the world stage being able to dream and strive for opportunities like that to get on the world stage. So it's huge. It's huge to see the growth of the sport. And yeah, I think it's a great opportunity that it's in the backyard here because I love it, like having, I don't know how many teams we have in total. We have 6, right, teams, but we've got countries from the all world country like team, and like people get excited about the World Cup. France is in right now. They're not in the World Cup. Canada's coming in. They're not in the World Cup. Just like it means a lot, in the world of wrestling. And you get that with the growth of girls wrestling and women's wrestling, and you're just getting this amazing like trajectory where it's going to be a cross point right here in Iowa. And for the people who love, breathe, eat, sleep wrestling, it's embedded and ingrained in this state. So
sorry, KJP.
Yeah, Clarissa, what's it mean to have Felicity there representing the University of Iowa, especially since, she's from Eastern Iowa originally? What's that mean? And what kind of opportunity is in front of her, representing the United States in an event like this?
Yeah, this is everything we want in the program, right? We want to keep them local if we can, right? I hear every girl, every boy wants to grow up being a Hawkeye, right? Not that other schools in Iowa. I don't know. That's the saying I hear. I'm not from Iowa, so I don't know that, but shoot, I wanted to be a Hawkeye and I wasn't from Iowa. So it's for like personally, it was important to have Felicity be a part of the University of Iowa program. One, because she's a great role model. You know, she led the way in girls wrestling in the state of Iowa at the high school level too. She's a great leader. You know, she comes from a hardworking family, and the fact that she's been on program at McKendree where they've won national titles, you know, and for her to come to the University of Iowa was huge. It's a huge win for us, and hopefully a huge win for her being back home. Bring her back home. And, you know, she's, you know, everyone that's on this program wants world and Olympic aspirations. And that's the next step, right? Winning college national titles for the University of Iowa, but also representing the red, white, and blue on the world stage. And yeah, you know, moving forward, we've started our own Hawkeye Women's Wrestling Club. So, you know, that's the talk about, you know, her being that first athlete representing the Hawkeye Women's Wrestling Club. So we're getting things rolling, and yeah, super excited.
Gary.
Yeah, Clarissa, I know that the fans in Iowa have seen some high-level women's wrestling with the Olympic trials being held there twice, but this is an opportunity for them to actually have someone to root for. One of the Hawkeye wrestlers are going to be competing. Could you talk a little bit about what this will mean to expose people to not only one of your athletes, but the freestyle wrestling, which is the collegiate style for women?
Yeah. I think that I would say maybe most people in like overall may or may not know that women collegiate wrestling is freestyle. So it is a great opportunity to have the people in the stands see what freestyle looks like. Yes, you know, Olympic trials was in Carver, and, you know, people get excited to watch their own, you know, in their own like arena. So for Felicity to be able to compete, it's kind of like a peek into what's going on here in Carver, what's going on here on the campus of University of Iowa. So, you know, it's a redshirt year. So I get a lot of questions about, when can we see your women wrestle? When can we see your women wrestle? When are they going to wrestle? Where's the schedule? Can we come watch them? Yes. December 10th and 11th, World Cup, Extreme Arena. December 29th and 30th, Soldier Salute, Extreme Arena, you know? So that's kind of like a sneak peek, you know, on a tournament. Well, the World Cup is dual tournament style, you know? So they just love wrestling, and I love that they love it. And I'm biased to freestyle, so I just tell people in the stands of Carver that freestyle is more exciting, so come watch us. So
Cody.
Yeah, Coach, I'm curious. What do you remember about that first World Cup that you guys attended way back when?
I remember, like, this is cool. 2001, so I was 20 years old, and hadn't wrestled in a dual style tournament since high school, right? So I was still young and new to wrestling, so I was pretty in awe of the teams that were there. You know, it was Japan, of course, you know, and then Russia, you know, us. I believe China was there. I remember Greco was there, and it was, you know, like Kevin Bracken, you know, those guys, like Jeff Cerrone, like, so, you know, that was what was cool, because it was the camaraderie amongst like the athletes getting to know each other, because we're sharing the same space, right? And competing in the same space. Yeah, you know, back then, world championships, you know, women were on their own, men were on their own. And it wasn't until, I believe it was 2001 in Sofia, Bulgaria. Was that correct, Gary Abbott? That they had men and women's world championships together. But prior to that, women were on their own, you know? So I remember 2000 world championships. It was in a gymnasium that looked like a high school gym, and that was the world championships. So it just leveled up the sport and just as an event, and I think it's a great idea to keep it together. And you just, instead of having multiple events all around the world, is just bring them together. Let's see who are the top teams and, in the world. So I don't know. I like it.
KJ?
A couple questions. One on, in 2013, when wrestling kind of had its Olympic standing threatened a little bit, one of the calls at the time was for it to be more inclusive. And, now that you see how far wrestling has come, do you think, this World Cup event is kind of an example of just how far wrestling has made strides in that area since then?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would say that was almost 10 years ago, right? I mean, in the state of Iowa, there are probably a handful of girls that wrestled, sprinkled across the state now. And I would say that for most states, right? Just the trajectory of the growth of the sport, right? Just like opportunities and whatnot that are opening up for these young girls. Yeah. And now there's thousands of girls in the States and competing in girls wrestling. But sorry, KJ, I think I brain farted on if I'm answering your question.
But just with the World Cup being, men's and women's on the same stage at the same time, it shows how far they've kind of come over the decade when, that maybe wasn't the case when they were kind of maybe on the outside, possibly losing their Olympic standing.
Yeah. And like, absolutely. And I think, there's been more support in that, right? More support for young girls to share the same space as the men, for women to share the same space as the men. I don't I don't know. I don't want to go into how back in the day, when I was an athlete kind of thing. That makes me sound old, right? But yeah, the acceptance of being a female wrestler was different, I feel like. And this is just, the world is ready to say, hey, girls can wrestle too. Let these women wrestle. And it's going to continue to blow up because what's good for the men is good for the women, right? It's a sport for all. That's for sure.
And then with Felicity, what makes her such a strong competitor? What makes her successful?
I think she's strong and flexible and she knows what she wants, when she gets on the mat, and she's a competitor. She's competitive. So I think she's going to do a lot of great things on the world stage. And yeah, it's about letting her shine, letting herself shine out there.
All right. Well, take one more question before we move on to Felicity. Kelby.
Hi, thanks, Coach, for taking the time to do this. Kind of a little two-parter here. How excited are the athletes to be on this stage right next to the men? Like, how excited are they to be pumped up to be this stage? And how are you as coaches sort of also kind of tapering their emotions a little bit so it doesn't get kind of the best of them here in this kind of a stage that they probably haven't been on before?
I think at the end of the day, it's like taking care of business, right? Like not letting it overwhelm them in the sense of, oh gosh, we get to compete alongside each other. Because, at the World Championships that happens, but not on a dual tournament level. So really it's just, they're professionals. They're professional athletes and they handle business in that way. So they're going to go out there, do what they do, right? Do what they do best, and let that take care of itself. if the individual athlete just takes care of what's in front of them, they'll take care of what's needed for the team, right? So I think it's just like a fun environment, you know, being a part of a dual team, and then cheering your teammates on, like watching it one after another, right? Instead of like running across the mats and finding the mats like a tournament style. Yeah, so that's what I think.
Awesome. Thanks, Clarissa.
Thank you. Let's go, Felicity.
Okay. Hi, Felicity. We'll go ahead and just head into questions for you. So anyone that has a question, please raise your hand in the participant window. Cody, go ahead.
We'll start with an easy one. What's your overall excitement level just for this weekend and getting ready to rep USA again?
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's an amazing opportunity to be a part of this team, and to be able to do it in Iowa City is even better. So I'm excited. I'm ready to compete. I'm ready to show the world, show Iowa City what Iowa women's wrestling looks like, and where we're at.
Kelby?
Hey, Felicity. Just real quick, I'm from Monona, Iowa, so this is like super awesome to be seeing somebody locally wrestling on this kind of stage. Can we expect a big showing from the Southwind faithful and kind of the Northeast Iowa part to come watch you compete?
I sure hope so. I know a lot of my family from around there is coming, so it's a great opportunity for, you know, Northeast Iowa and just anyone in Iowa to come out and watch.
Sorry, KJ, did you have a question?
Yeah. Felicity, you know, when you first started wrestling at Southwind, you know, representing the United States, was that ever an aspiration when you first started? And when did that become something that seemed like a tangible goal, and something that you really started to kind of strive for?
Yeah, when I first started, it was just to stay active for cross country and track. So it was never a goal of mine to be at this level and competing for Team USA. As my career went on and I got to probably my junior year, I got more exposed to women's wrestling and was going to more of the national events. And that's when I kind of made it a goal to make it as far as I can with the sport. That's when I started going to Folkstyle Nationals, Fargo, and all of that. So I would say about my junior year of high school is when I started getting more serious about it and striving for those goals to be on Team USA and stuff.
Cody, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I know you and I have talked plenty about this, just the continued growth of girls and women's wrestling, and you know, bringing an event like this to Coralville. There's been, you know, national championships and world team trial events. But what do you feel like this event, this international event, could do for, you know, that continued movement, you know, not just nationally and internationally, but even here in Iowa?
Yeah, I think Clarissa spoke about it a little bit, but just like the exposure to this high level wrestling, I don't think I watched any like senior level wrestling until I was competing in it. So just allowing those girls in high school and all the girls around Iowa, even middle school and younger elementary, to have that exposure and the opportunity to be able to watch wrestling at the highest level is awesome. And yeah, it's great to be able to have it here and local, especially with Iowa just sanctioning women's wrestling in high school. So it's a great opportunity for all the girls.
Okay, Gary, you can go ahead.
Yeah, Felicity, I'm just curious how your preparation has been going. I know the group went down and competed in the Missouri Valley tournament, and how is your wrestling going right now? I mean, you're going to have some really high level athletes in your weight class that you're going to have to wrestle. So is it in a spot where you feel real comfortable about going out there and showing your best?
Yeah, I feel like training doesn't change up too much. It's just another tournament. Yes, it's a higher level tournament, but at the end of the day, it's I like to just get to my stuff and do what I do best. So I wouldn't say training changes much, maybe working specific positions of the competitors that I'll have, but mainly sticking to what I know and what I do best is what's gonna win me matches this weekend.
Kenna?
The Iowa men's wrestling team has had a few duels in Carver so far, and the women's team has been introduced. How would you describe the Carver atmosphere and just the Hawkeye fans, and what are you like most excited about to for the upcoming season and getting to wrestle in Carver?
Yeah, the Iowa fans are like no other fans. They're awesome and wild, and you definitely hear them no matter what. So I'm just excited to be there and being able to wear an Iowa singlet and be in that environment. Definitely just focusing on my match. I know it could probably be a little bit overwhelming, but it's going to be awesome, and I'm super excited to be able to compete in Carver next year.
Awesome. Any last minute questions for Felicity? No? Okay, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you guys.